Morning, everybody. Today is Halloween, October 31st. Thank you to all of my usual suspects for turning out for another one of our ACT webinars, our virtual user groups, as I sometimes call them. Today's topic is going to be about ACT companies and linking contacts to them and why you should use companies. As always, my name is Stephen Bolden. Today we are presenting out of the ACT20 demo database. If those of you are wondering why it looks different, we've got a new color scheme, a new set. I believe in 2 weeks I have a session planned for what's new in version 20. I normally have these planned a bit earlier, closer to when the versions come out, but I'm waiting to see if there's some features on the horizon that may actually be added in a rapidly upcoming update. We're looking to see what's going to go on there, but for now we will be settling with companies, and it's a really interesting feature that you should be using with ACT. So right here, what I'm looking at is my own contact record. And it's no surprise that every contact has a company. I have a company name right below it. And if I ask people, are you using ACT companies? They usually say, well, gee, sure I am. We always fill out the company name. That is important. But what I'm really asking is, no, are you using companies? Down here in the left-hand sidebar of ACT on the companies tab, this whole page, do you have companies filled out here that you have companies linked back and forth to? You see, these companies, to understand why these are a little bit different, I guess a brief bit of background on how relational databases work, which is what ACT is. And each one of these tabs here, at least the first few, contacts, groups, and companies and opportunities, are their own entities. If you think of the entire database like a big Excel spreadsheet, I suppose, or a big Excel workbook, the different entities like contacts and companies are their own pages within that spreadsheet. Contacts can have their own sets of fields, customizations, and every individual contact record is a row within the contacts table. And then there's a different table called companies that has their own set of fields, such as ticker symbol and industry. And each row in the companies table represents a company within its own table. And so then we link them back and forth. I know that might, that's a lot of background info that might not be necessary to know, but it kind of helps explain why ACT behaves the way it does, in that these companies need to be hyperlinked between each other. So if I pick on some of these companies, like the first one on the list here, Ace Pet Store Franchises, we see some contacts that have been added here in the past, and I can click on their names because their names are hyperlinks here. So if I click on Gavin, for example, it takes me back to Gavin's business card, or his contact record rather, into the detail view. But we see that his company name is hyperlinked back to the company record in the database. When we're looking back at my record, mine is not hyperlinked. So how do we do this? Why do we want to? And how can we make it easier? Those are the questions we're going to go over today. Well, for starters, back on the company's record, if I have a company card for Ace Pet Store Franchises, I have all of my contacts in here. There's 5 different contacts associated with this company in the database. And as a result, I see a consolidated viewing of opportunities. These are all of the open opportunities here across all 5 contacts. Then I see consolidated history and notes. Kind of a poor example, I suppose, of me, because there's no notes entered on here. There's got to be some sample notes. Well, if I were to just go back to Gavin's record really quickly, I'm going to throw in a sample note there. Demo database is sometimes missing data. The company record will show consolidated opportunities and histories and notes across all of the contacts associated with it. So that can be useful if people are putting notes. If you have many contacts at a company, and different salespeople at your company are working with those contacts, and you're not sure where they might have put some of the notes under which record, checking the company record can be a good place to find them all at once. It can also be a good idea that if you want to just find the company all at once, and here it is. The way that ACT was designed is that contacts, generally each contact is supposed to be a person. I know many businesses out there, you run one on a much more company-centric view. You don't do things on the contact level. So people will have contact records that only have a company name filled out, but they have the contact name blank. It's not the worst way to do it. Like this ACT user community, for example, this record here. But the way that ACT tries to treat these things is that each contact record is its own individual person. What should really happen here is that these are made as their own company. So to create a new company, it's very much the same as creating a new contact. You can go to the company side and manually hit new company, and sure enough, you can fill all of this out. I'll call it new company, and we've got all sorts of information we can fill out in there and go through. But that's kind of cumbersome. You're not going to go, and I don't expect you to create a new company record for each and every one of the hundreds of contacts in your database. So there is a way that we can make this easier. But to start, we'll start with the basics. So we'll make a new company manually. You fill out its information. And then if you wanted to associate an existing contact with this, there's two ways. It's a two-way street. We can associate it from the company side, or we can go to the contact record and associate it from the contact side. So right now I've got a blank company with nobody listed here under the contacts list. Well, I can say add/remove contacts. I can say static members. I'll go and find somebody from my database that I want to add in with this company. I don't know. I can just really pick anybody. I'll pick this skydiving. Say okay, and sure enough, now they are linked in. This is another example of a contact record without a name filled in, the demo database gave me. But of course, you're not going to go through and manually create companies for each person and relate them in. So there's a way to do it automatically from the contact record. So if I go to my record and I want to link myself to a company, then the easy way to do that is to go to Contacts, Create Company from Contact. Everybody take a moment and check this button out because it's one of the most useful features there is if you're going to be using the company's feature. Contacts and then Create Company from Contact. What this will do is all in one click. It's going to, I'm on my contact record right now within ACT. It's going to take my company information, the address, the phone number, and all of that good stuff, copy it over into a new company record, and automatically associate my contact record within one fell swoop. And there she is. Now I've got 12-3 marketing, and I've got Stephen Bolden linked in there as a new contact. Another reason that we're going to use these companies is it's extremely useful to add in new people that we've met at a company. So let's say you go to a meeting with somebody and you got up a few new business cards, or you meet during some type of email thread that there's more people that you've met from the same company. Now, if you're not using companies in ACT, let's say that if you met somebody else at 12-3 and you wanted to add a new contact record for them, well, certainly one way to do it, maybe the worst way, but one way to do it would be to create a new contact and fill out all this stuff manually for the new 12-3 employee that you met. Let's say you met my colleague Bob over in Buffalo. And so sure, you could go through and fill it all out manually. Or you could even use the duplicate contact trick that I showed a few weeks ago. But with companies, there's a step to do it even better, is you can go to the company record within ACT here. So if I go to 12-3 marketing and I say I want to add Bob to 12-3, then the same way that I just did create company from contact from the contact record, you can do it in the reverse. Create contact from company. It's under the companies menu here. Companies, create contact from company. And what this is going to do is the same way that it did to me. It's going to copy over the company information, the phone number, the website, and the address. It's going to create a new contact in ACT, and that they're already going to be automatically associated with 12-3. It's just going to ask for some really the basic information now. All I have to fill out would be Bob's information. It's just Bob Lozenak, and throw his email in there. And that's just about it. Some of the information you can change, what is linked between contacts and companies. So if you're curious about what happens when I say create company from contact, for example, and it copies over some of this information here. What gets controlled is you actually do have control over this. This is something that we can change within our defined fields. I'm not going to go into it now, but you can change what happens when you create a contact from company or create a company from contact, which email is carried over, or which fields are carried over For example, email is not something that's carried over because companies generally don't have an email address. That's an individual thing. But of course, you could add one. Okay, so that's a lot to take in for the moment. But where we're at now is a system where, you say, okay, I can see why companies would be useful, and I can see how I can have a easier time of associating people with them one at a time by doing the create company from contact over and over. But gee, that would take forever. You are absolutely right. So there is a feature that was added in version 16. It's one that maybe you want to consult with me before you actually go ahead and turn it on, because you just want to be careful. Maybe make a backup first. There is a feature within your preferences under the admin tab here for automated company creation. You can set ACT to automatically create a company and automatically link contacts to that company if it ever detects a certain threshold of contacts were created to go above it. So for example, if I set this to 2, then as soon as I have 2 or more contacts in the contact section of ACT that are both named 12-3 marketing, for example, and they are both spelled precisely the same way, verbatim, on that company name, then it can automatically create a new company and link them to it. You can even set the company creation to 1. Sometimes I don't do that, though, just because every mistype and way that people type something in might get created as a company. But there is an automated company creation tab. If you are interested in turning this on, you can read up on it in detail. There are knowledge base articles available on the web about it. But it's a pretty useful feature there that can automatically get you started. So even if you already have thousands of contacts in your database and you think, oh, we've never been using this, we're too far gone, you can turn on that automated feature and really get ramped up to speed. I saw a question coming through the chat here. Stephen asks, if you create a company from contact path, can you tell who within the company did what on a date? If you create company from I'm sorry, I might need a bit of clarification. I think what you are asking here is, if you create company from contact path followed, can you tell who within the company did what on a date? Well, so when you're looking at a company record, you can see under the activities, you'll see a consolidated listing of activities and notes in history. So for example, for Ace Pet Store, these are all the open activities across the Ace Pet Store, and these are all of the histories. So if that's what you're asking, who within the company did what on a date, maybe you're looking at the history tab here. There's also the company access tab. This is one of the default tabs, so you can customize and move this around, but it will show you information like when the company record was created and last edited. Maybe that's what you're looking for. I'm sorry, Steve. I hope that answers your question. Please feel free to ask away if there's more that I can do. Another thing that we need to know is, I showed you an example of creating a company from a contact when they're not already there, or when one's not present, and how you can create a contact from a company if you meet somebody new. But what if you have a company that you've already got multiple contacts for? For example, I'll use Beautiful Friendship Bar and Grill as an example. Well, I can go ahead and say contacts and create company from contact, create myself a new company for Beautiful Friendship Bar and Grill, but now I've only got Rick Blaine in here. There were 3 contacts in my database for this company, and I've only got 1. Well, I can go back to that list and look at the other one, like Elsa and Louise. And if I open them up, if I want to link this now, there's a few ways I can do that. I can go under the contacts menu. There's a link to company button. There's also a one-click shortcut, even easier, is by clicking this little ellipsis icon to the right here. So if I click on these 3 dots, then it brings up a link to company. This is just a jump to that link to company. It will try to find the best match company based on the name, and it found it. And I can say, okay, and sure enough, it's linked. Boom, it's 1 click. I'll do it again for Lewis. Just click this button. He's not linked right now. Click the button, Beautiful Friendship Bar and Grill. Okay, done. back in the company section. Now they're all in there. And in the future, I can create contact from company if I want to keep adding more people to the database from here. Stephen, do you have a microphone? I'm going to unmute you. I'd like you to feel free to, oh, you're not on the line with the call. Change options to show contacts at a meeting. When you're scheduling activities with somebody within ACT, you still only schedule them on the contact level. So when I say that I schedule them with somebody, I usually have to pick a contact here. It will associate the company automatically that the contact is affiliated with. But you still, when you're scheduling things within ACT, they will be with a contact. Is kind of how the database is set up, if that's what you're asking. I'm really sorry. There you go. Hey, Steve. You are unmuted. Ask away.
I have lots of contacts with, for example, the developers, and something happened on a certain day, but I on the consolidated history, I want to know who actually had met during my or whatever.
Good question. Yep. Here. So it's showing you, thank you for your question. It's showing you date, time, result, regarding details, and record. He's pointing out that the history doesn't say which the multiple contacts within here we're actually affiliated with. This is the app user, but I don't see which contacts these are from. That's a really good question. This should be on by default. But you do have to manually set this. It would be great if they did it for you. It's right here under the options and customize columns drop down. So this is kind of a recurring theme that we see in ACT, is this customize columns menu. We see this when we're looking at the contact lookups and list views. But if we go under customize columns here, we can see contact is the one that we're actually looking for, as well as a few other fields about history. But if I move contact over here, that's on the end. I'll move that up a few. I'll put it right before the regarding. Now it shows which contact that this history was affiliated with. The ones that are blank are related to the company record overall. They're things like linked and created, but that's what you're looking for, Steve, is you want to do that under customize columns and add the contact over there, the contact field. Good question. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So I showed how you can manually link people and how you can individually link them back and forth. The last thing to talk about, let's talk about sub-companies and divisions. So companies can have sub-companies underneath, for example, and they can even have sub-companies. They call them, in technical terms, we call that a parent-child relationship when we're talking about database, but other people might see it as a tree that's more of like a division and subdivision and headquarters and whatnot. You can have a contact associated with multiple companies. For example, oops, and grab that. If you want to make any subdivisions, we'll start with that. You can take any company, and if you right-click on it, you can say New Division, and it will make a subdivision underneath there. I'll call this one 1232. And now it's a subdivision underneath there. You can also manually create a new company and drag and drop them. You see that gold arrow to the left. You can drag and drop that to anywhere else. That's how you make a subdivision. But if you want to associate a contact with multiple subdivisions, then I can just click on the division record, go to add or remove contacts, and associate a contact in there, such as myself, and say OK. And now, sure enough, I'm a member of 1232, and I'm also a member of 12.3 as the parent. This is great so that if you have, for example, I know one of my accounts, they do a lot of work with National Grid. And National Grid, in terms of a company, has 100 different addresses and phone numbers for their main company record in different regions and offices. They wanted a parent National Grid record as well as a National Grid subdivision for each and every office that they have. they have it nicely organized that every one of the subdivisions has their appropriate contacts affiliated with it, as well as the parent headquarters has all of the master companies affiliated with it. So if you deal with some complex company trees like that, then divisions and associating with them are certainly possible in that way. Will asks, can you clean up the database by deleting an old company without deleting the actual contacts? Very good question. The answer is yes. Because the contact records and the company records are separate, remember they are in different tables of the database, and they are just simply linked to each other. Really, the contact is its own record with all of its own information and history, and the company is its own record with all of its own information and history. And we've done nothing more than hyperlink the two of them together. Then by all means, you can delete a company record without affecting any of the contacts associated with it. So for example, if I want to delete this 12.3.2 that I made, and I want to prove that my Stephen Bolden record will be unaffected, I simply right-click on the company and say delete. You can also do it from up here in this menu and do companies delete. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that out, and goodbye. And sure enough, 12.3 marketing was still unaffected because I just deleted the subdivision only, and my record will also be unaffected. You can delete companies at will if there's old and junk ones in there. Just like contacts, people sometimes click on the new button and then they didn't mean to, and they end up with new company is in there. It's kind of like a bad one. So here's one that I made earlier, the skydiving one. I'll just delete that. Yep, by all means, you can delete them individually. You can even use shift select. Just like contacts, we have a detail view and a list view for companies. They do look different. But you know, in contacts, as we split between detail view and list view, we can do the same with companies. There's detail view, which shows kind of the breakdown over here, and there's list view, which shows all of our columns. And so if you have a lot that you want to delete in bulk, you can use the list view, use your keyboard commands like shift select and control select to select multiple and clean them out that way. Oh, and one more thing, just like that when we work with groups, you know that when you're working with a group and you want to turn this back into a contact lookup, you can use the create lookup from group magnifying glass shortcut to turn you back into a lookup based on that group. We have the same thing with companies. So if I go to 12.3, for example, we have a create lookup from company record button here. And if I click that, then we've got a lookup in Act, which you can work with differently if you just wanted to see all of the contacts in a list. That's just about wrapping it up. I hope that you guys find this useful. It will certainly save you time in the future if you get started and in the habit of using this for adding new contacts from a company. You know, as soon as you email somebody new, it's extremely easy to go in and add them to your database with basically one click with the create contact from company button. Then all you're on the hook for is filling out a name and a phone number and an email. And then the rest of the information, like the address and website, that's all already done for you. So it saves a lot of time. To get started with companies, if you're not using them, consider turning on this admin option for company preferences for the automated company creation, and but read up on it first. And I hope that you'll join me next week. I believe my topic is on reports. For those of you watching on YouTube, please bookmark the calendar, the link in the description. Put it on your calendar every Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m. We open these sessions up to the public, and I hope that you find them as useful as work that we put into them. So thank you, and happy Halloween. Bye.